Over the months, Iran's billboard designers have been both morbid and triumphant. A nation that feels they have the upper hand in this grinding war with Donald Trump's America. But could Tehran be the ones who soon start feeling the squeeze after Washington announced a new round of economic sanctions and the regime admitting that their citizens are feeling the pain?
We completely sympathise with the people. We understand what inflation means. We understand what pressure on the currency means. We understand what shortages mean. But the government's entire effort was to prevent these desperate attempts to cut off the country's financial and commercial lifelines.
The aim of Washington's proposed sanctions is to isolate Iran from its allies and the global economy. Tehran's currency has already dropped to a record low against the US dollar. There were long lines at petrol stations today amidst fuel shortages and rumours of price rises. The concern is that Iranians will feel the economic pain rather than the regime.
One of the major problems with sanctions is that it tends to hurt civilian populations who already don't have control over their governments. The Iranian regime has shown that they're extremely capable of repressing dissent and opposition domestically, and they've done it over and over the past several years.
Iran is no stranger to sanctions from Washington, having dealt with a range of economic measures since the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Tehran has managed to survive by moving money, oil and goods through intermediaries, yet the White House is sounding confident. The US naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has managed to strangle oil exports from Iran. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent believes this pressure could force a change in Tehran.
To the ordinary soldiers supporting this regime, as more and more of your paychecks stop or are supposedly just delayed, ask whether your commanders are leading your country to triumph or to ruin. And recall that the Berlin Wall fell when ordinary soldiers decided not to shoot at their own people.
It does speak of desperation if they think the only way they can coerce Iran is to get a new government in place. And it's very unlikely that that would happen. And it's unlikely that a new government would be any friendlier to the United States or any more likely to compromise with the United States as a result of these sanctions.
And the new sanctions aren't just targeted at Iran. They're aimed at any nation financially partnering with them. And that risks the wrath of Beijing. China buys about 90% of the oil that Iran exports and warned that they could retaliate if Chinese companies are included in the sanctions.
China's cooperation with Iran has always been conducted within the framework of international law and should not be interfered with. China is closely watching the relevant development and will take all necessary measures to firmly safeguard its legitimate rights and interests.
China's warning is not great news for anyone ahead of a visit by Xi Jinping to Washington next month. And Iran could also counter-escalate themselves with yet more attacks on the Strait of Hormuz, despite President Trump saying today that all mines had been removed from the waterway.
So Iran has many cards that it can play. It can obviously go after U.S. assets, especially naval assets that are enforcing the blockade. It can deepen its own blockade by pushing the Houthis in Yemen to put more pressure on energy and commercial traffic in and out of the Red Sea. And then the Iranians can obviously push their allies, like the militias in Iraq, to target Saudi or Emirati energy infrastructure.
Will these sanctions therefore force Iran into escalating the war? Or will they fail and thus force the Americans to go back to military might? Yet more questions and unknowns in a conflict that was meant to last just 6 weeks, but will soon mark 6 months.